All right. Well, welcome to our next career chat. This series today is going to be sales management, and I have a really special guest. His name is Jim Kalb. He is the founder and president of Triad Components Group, and Jim is going to be talking a little bit about what the field is about, how to break into that field, and how to be successful as a student to get yourself set up for that. So Jim, thank you very much for being here today. Any opening words you'd like to say for our students?
No, other than the fact that I wish I had that opportunity when I was at San Diego State. I was here a long time ago, and I'm an alumnus of engineering department here at San Diego State, and love to find a way to give back, and so that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And I'm remiss that I forgot to mention that you were an alum, because that does matter. You know, it's nice to have you back.
Yeah, giving back to all those people who gave back to me.
All right, so we're talking about sales management today. In your experience and just your perspective, what does sales management mean?
All right, so there's two different things here. One is sales and one is sales management.
Mhm.
So a good friend of mine likes to say that a sales manager is not there to grow sales. A sales manager is there to grow salespeople.
Mhm.
And so the idea here is kind of like, a baseball team. So, the manager of the team doesn't play. They have players that play. And so they're there to teach, to create a game plan, to go over, to get feedback, to give feedback, and mostly to coach and train salespeople to become better. Now, salespeople, on the other hand, they are there to sell. And we teach our salespeople to, and I didn't make this up, but I read a lot, so I kind of have adopted a certain philosophy about sales. And it's a three-tier approach that we look for on the sales side. We look first to find a way to connect with the customer. And so that connection comes from a lot of different ways, but one of the main ways that we find to connect is, one, just being a good person. Think about being on a first date. You're there, you're cordial, you're nice, you're interesting, you're observant, you listen, you ask pertinent questions and all that stuff. That's one way to connect. The other way to connect, which is really, really important, especially in our field, is to become subject matter experts. If you go to a car lot, you want to talk to a salesperson there, and they said, "Hey, tell me about this new Lexus." And I said, "I wish I could tell you, but I don't know anything about them." And it's like, well, why are you a salesperson? And the idea here is that you have to be a subject matter expert. Not only do you have to know about your products, you have to know about competitors' products and be able to contrast and compare those things. And you need to be able to understand pricing in the marketplace. You need to understand the marketplace. You need to understand the features and benefits of your product. You need to understand applications. It's a whole host of different things you need to. But when you become a subject matter expert, now all of a sudden you show and convince that the potential customer that you go to Best Buy. Once again, you want to buy this TV. What's the difference between this TV and that TV? Oh, let me tell you. Mm-hmm. And now you trust that person. If that person says, like, I don't know much about it, let me talk to my manager. It doesn't really help, So we spend a lot of time teaching our salespeople how to become subject matter experts and all the different facets of art. So the first thing is the connection. Second thing is, in part of sales, is being able to convince. So you made the connection, you got their trust, and you got their understanding, and you got their attention. And so the next thing you have to do is convince. And so convincing comes down to three different facets there. One of them is to make a compelling ROI reason. Why do you want to buy this one versus that one? Why do you want to change from what you're currently doing in order to buy our products? So we created a compelling ROI for that. The second thing you want to do is you want to be able to overcome their fear of making a bad choice. So it's guarantees, it's warranties, it's satisfied customers and such. So you're overcoming their the obstacle of fear of them changing, the fear of change. And the third thing you want to do is, now you've convinced them this is the product you want, and this is how you want to go, and I understand this, and here's the ROI, and here's all the things we can do to alleviate the fears. Now, why do you want to choose us versus choosing somebody else? You've already made the choice to change. Now, why change us? If you're out there selling Toyotas, you're like, hey, you should not be buying a Lexus. You should be buying a Toyota for this reason and this reason, and this reason. And you got them believing in a mid-sized car and why the valuation is so much better. And so they said, great, I'm going to go look at Honda. And he was like, no, that's not why I brought you to this point to actually buy. And so then the last thing we do is, so we talk about connection, we talk about convincing, and the last thing is collaborating. And so many of our customers today, we sell a product that is recurring sales. It's like selling, giving away the razors, but selling the razor blades. We've heard that before. We've also heard, give away the printer and sell the ink cartridges and other things. But so we're involved with a recurring type of a sale. So what we're trying to do now is, they've already decided to buy. Now we want to make it better for them. We want to, okay, so we've already decided that our commodity will fit your need, but now how can we change it away from a commodity to actually now save you steps along the way? So we can now continue to innovate our products in order to better fit your products. And that, so what else would you like to see in our products, or what other features would you like to see? How would this benefit you? Let me see your product line. Let me see your assembly line, so I can see how many steps you're using to install our product. Maybe we can install, save you 7 or 8, 9 steps by pre-installing some of these things in our products. So now it's a collaborative effort. So when we go and we bring on our salespeople, those are the 3 steps: the connect, the convince, and the collaborate. And we teach our salespeople on how to do that. The other thing with our products are that we actually don't sell anything directly to the consumers. So I'm going to use cars again. It seems to work out really well. Our products are all sold through dealers or distributors. And so it's, imagine if you work for Ford. Ford doesn't sell any cars to consumers. The cars end up at consumers, even if you have the biggest, taxi fleets or Uber fleets or whatever it is. They don't sell directly. You have to buy your fleet of vehicles from a distributor or a dealer for this up. Now Tesla's kind of has changed that model, but the idea here is that you had to go to a distributor. So all of our products, 100% of it, go to a distributor who then sells it to an end user. Or a factory using our products. And so our idea there, and the reason why we did this to begin with, was because we wanted to, well, first of all, we started on a shoestring budget, 20 something years ago. And so we didn't have the ability to bring on 100 salespeople to go capture the market. We didn't have that kind of money. We're bootstrapped all along the way. So what we needed to do is we needed to find a way to multiply our efforts. And so when we go see a distributor who has 4 or 5 salespeople, now we can manage 40 or 50 distributors times their 5 outside salespeople or inside salespeople. So now we have a sales force of 200 out there being able to sell my products. The key there is to capturing their attention, so they want to sell our products because they have a multiple of things to sell on their line card. So what compelling arguments can we make for us so it will behoove them and be lucrative enough for them to actually sell our products? So we have all kinds of different, our special sauce or secret sauce to be able to do some of that and capture some of that attention to go after that stuff. So if you're in a different type of a sale, if you're selling things via the internet, you don't have any salespeople or they're more customer service people, our business model doesn't necessarily work in that. So I want to change gears 1 second here. I'll just keep going on. So I talk about this, and you and I have kind of talked about this before as we're good friends, but there's there's three different types of sales out there. When I say sales, there's three different types of ways to sell truly sales. I'm not talking about like like Airbnb doesn't have salespeople, Google doesn't have salespeople per se. So so I don't really count those. Those are just marketing. When people come to their site by self-service. It's a self-service thing. But if you do have a sales where you have salespeople, there's three different types. And I like to talk about farming in this particular case. So there's one thing, if you're a carrot farmer, you're going to put one seed in the ground, and after a few weeks, you're going to get a plant, and you're going to be able to eat that carrot, and then you're done with the carrot, and you throw the stem away or the leaves away, and then you don't have any more carrots. So you've got to continue to replant the carrots in the ground all the time, because you get one seed, one plant. So that would be analogous to something like a real estate broker. They get a listing, they sell the house, they don't have any more inventory, they got to go find another listing, or they got to go find another customer to sell them a house that's already on. So once someone has a house, they don't need a second or third or fourth or fifth, typically. Oops.
Sorry about that. This room is a little particular with the light conservation.
So you have the carrot farmers. And so second of all, the second type of farming that you have is what I call the subscription-based model. It's the tomato farmer. You put one seed in the ground, and I don't know, 60 days later, 75 days later, you get a small tomato bush, and you start picking off fruit off of them for a certain amount of time. But at the end of the season, yeah, for the next 60 days, you can take off one or two tomatoes off of there, and you'll be able to eat for 60 days. But at the end of that season, the plant dies, and you've got to go replant the tomato bush as well if you want to see some more tomatoes in the future. But imagine, if you would, that you had, for sake of argument, you had Hulu. And you say, well, I've seen all the movies, or Netflix. You've seen all the movies on Netflix, so now I'm going to dump Netflix. I'm going to go to Disney Plus. And so you do Disney Plus for a while. You say, I've seen all the content over there. Now I'm going to go. So they're going to get you for a year or 2 years or 3 years on their subscription, but eventually you're going to go away. And then so they have to go find another person to get another subscription to come into their situation, to buy their product. So although you get to eat for a while, you still have to plant the seed. Now, the third type is what I call the apple farmer. Sometimes they're the grape farmer, but we'll just call it. But imagine, if you would, if you're going to plant an apple tree. So you plant an apple tree, and the first year, how many apples do you get? 0. Your plant is only that big. So you have 0 apples on that apple tree. The second year, you get a tree that's maybe 4 feet high or something like that, and you might get a cherry apple out of there or something like that. But for the most part, you don't get any apples. Third year, you get a pail of apples, smaller apples, and then you get a bushel of regular size apples, and then 2 bushels, and then 4 bushels, and then 10 bushels of apples. Our business is apple farming. So what we try to, and I try to, when I work with students who want to be entrepreneurs, I said, find something that's either subscription based or long-term, like an apple farm. And it's even worse, by the way. I use the analogy of wineries, because not only do you have to now to get the grapes, but now you harvest the grapes, it takes you 4 or 5 years to get the grapes, and now you have to make wine and age the wine another 2 or 3 years. And so now you don't get anything for 8 or 9 or 10 years out of the deal.
My wife will appreciate that analogy, by the way. Moldova is a wine growing country.
There you go. And so to become a winery, you need a 10-year runway to get that plane off the ground before you get any sales. Mm-hmm. And so our business is a lot of that same way. But the beauty is, so yes, it's harder, but the barriers to entry are great. But once you get past those barriers to entry, now you've got customers and you've got a business model that not anyone could do. You can't have startups that start up, in 6 months be what you are. It takes years to develop this. Even if you had the products, and even if you had knew where the customers were and such, you're not. For instance, today we're actually speccing in things into, if you wanted to spec something into Ford today, back to cars again, mm-hmm. If you want to, they're now planning and designing cars for 2027, 5 years out. Even if you were to get their business for the new model, for the 27 cars, you're not going to see any production until 27.
Mhm.
along the way. So, it keeps out most of the competitors out of there, unless if you have that runway to be able to do that. So, the best customers we have are up from the apple trees. Now, of course, we get some people who are just price shoppers and such, and they're carrots. They come, they go, or they're tomato bushes. Because if you were a pioneer and all you did was plant apple trees, guess what? You'd be starving after the first season, and you wouldn't have anything to feed your family. So if you decided to be this pioneer out there in some godforsaken place, and you started just growing apple trees, it might feed you forever and ever and ever. But you need to grow the wheat and the apples and the carrots and the tomatoes and some of the other things you're going to need in order to survive. And we had to do that same thing. But now our growth in our business is all the apple trees that we planted along the way. So where am I at now? So I was talking about different types of sales, and I've talked about what we do differently. So
Yeah, and
I'm sorry.
you told us that the difference between sales management and sales, which, by the way, I'm going to steal that analogy about the coach from you, if you don't mind.
Not at all, because I stole it from some. I think it was Isaac Newton said that the reason why I could see so far because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants who came before me.
Yeah,
and so
that one's a good saying. Yeah,
and so it's the reason I'm here actually, because why I hire students for, because I was here on campus. I went through on-campus interviews. I was part of the Career Center here. Right? So I know what it was firsthand, firsthand knowledge of what students go through to try and find work after they graduate, because I was going through the same thing.
Yeah,
so
I mean, it's definitely a challenge, but yes, your insights are incredible, and we appreciate you sharing them. And speaking of those insights, being the founder and president at Triad Components Group, you're manufacturing a product that you now have to sell. I guess in a sense, you're kind of the ultimate sales manager for Triad Components Group. What kind of brought you here? Why did you get into this business and decide that this was what you wanted to do?
It's kind of a roundabout way, but the story is that I was actually working in this particular business, which is really the fuse and circuit breaker business. We've later added switches to it. But what got me here was I actually used to work for one of the two big guys. So I talk about this all the time. The fuse business and the circuit breaker business is really a duopoly out there. And so there's a couple of other duopolies that we think about. So when I talk about like consumer batteries, like Eveready and Duracell. Eveready is Energizer, so it's the same thing. So now think of the third guy.
Hard to think of that, other than the generic brands that are probably supplied by one of the bigger ones.
Well, like Kirkland is Duracell.
Yeah.
So that's a big secret there. So if you go and you buy Kirkland batteries, they're actually made by Duracell. So I would just buy the Kirkland, and that. So but that's it. And so when I first discovered this particular marketplace, it was really dominated by two players, major billion-dollar players. But throughout that, if you have a situation like that, you can find a marketplace that's dominated by one or two players, then it gives you an opportunity to basically work in the cracks, in the crevices, in order to try and find things that they don't want to do. And ultimately, that's what we do. Probably about 30% of our business today is custom business, just things that they don't want to do.
So you found your niche.
Found our niche, which is just the cracks of a non-niche. They've been selling fuses now since the 1910s. And I think Edison was the very first guy who started, putting, Thomas Edison, putting this together. And so that's basically what we did. And I like to say, we feast on the crumbs of those of the big players.
Well, even though they might be crumbs, I should say that Triad Components Group, I guess as Optifuse at the time in 2017, was recognized as Forbes as one of the best small businesses, and you're constantly recognized as one of the faster growing businesses. So for a small company feasting on crumbs, you're doing pretty well.
We have about $15 million of crumbs.
Yeah.
but it's a $2 billion industry, and so the growth opportunity is phenomenal for us, and to a point where we're recognized as a great alternative, and we can continue to grow at 30% a year for the next my lifetime, and still not be $1 billion company. It'll outlive me, and it'll continue to go. And in fact, we'll get to that in a little bit, but the company is going to outlive me because we made that conscious decision to sell it to the employees. And so it's through an ESOP. And so not very many, we'll talk about ESOPs and before I leave here today, but it's an incredible opportunity for our employees. They don't have to write checks. They just get stock as part of them, a part of them, their employment. And so it's a great way to be an owner. There's a lot of people who put in sweat equity just to get a small little piece or options or something like this. And here's the situation. We're just giving it to them as part of what we're doing on an ongoing basis.
Well, why don't we use that as a segue so that we can start talking about the ESOPs now, but let me give it a little bit broader scope. So talking with students, main fears about going into sales. One, they don't want to be commission only because they're getting started, right? And when you're getting started, you might be confident, but you're still a little bit unsure. And at the end of the day, you want to be able to make money. Second fear that they tell me is being maybe too competitive. They don't want to be in a dog eat dog type of environment that's not necessarily attracted to them. But I think that those are more hyperbole a lot of times about the sales business. Sure, they exist, that there are, sales cultures that are like that.
Sure.
But there are a lot of other great sales cultures. And I think, Triad Components Group has a really good one that I would love for students to, even if they don't go into sales, to just come and take a look and see, how it can be different. So you want to talk a little bit about the sales culture at Triad Components Group, including the ESOP that you offer.
So coming from sales, so I did sales out of school. So even though I was an engineering major and an engineering student, I went into technical sales right out of school. And so I'd always wanted to do sales right out of school. So I ended up at a company that, first of all, didn't provide very much training. They didn't really provide, it was a lot of just salary only. And they didn't provide sales training. They didn't the technical training or anything like that. Anything you wanted, and they just threw you to the wolves, which was great in a way, as an eager student just out of school. But there wasn't a whole lot of direction there. Fortunately, I had some mentors and some great people that kind of showed me the way on how to do some of that stuff. But they just threw you to the wolves, and then I went to another company about 2 years later that had some really great technical training, but no sales training whatsoever. And both of those cases, I was fairly successful, but it was a all salary type of a job. And so there was no incentive for me to really work really hard. They didn't really want you to work really hard. They like people under the normal part of the curve. They're not looking for outliers. They don't want someone, and so that became really frustrating to me. And so when I first started TCG, is what you have to say, Triad Component Group all the time.
TCG.
TCG. So when I first started them and the company, I tried to set up a program that was that kind of replicated an entrepreneur type of program. So you can be it's a business inside of a business. So the first thing I did was say, all right, you need to pay off your student loans, you need to live, you need to pay your rent, you need to be able to do that. So I need to give you a competitive salary, not anything you're going to become rich on. You're going to say this is like the end all. This is just something to help you pay your bills, and pay what you would, get an apartment and get your car and do all those kind of things that you need to do. And then on top of that, I'm going to give you a commission that shares in the profitability of it. So it's not on top line sales, because then you have no incentive to make any profit. If it costs me $100 for the product to make the product, and you sell it for $100, we're not making any profit. So I'm going to pay you on the difference of what it costs versus what you sell it for, and then you're going to take a piece of that piece of business. The other thing that most companies, in fact, almost all companies do, if they're going to offer a commission plan, is they're going to continue to move the goalposts. And what I mean by that is that, let's just say your goal for this year was $1 million, and you were really successful and you sold $1.5 million, and you got your commission and everything. Guess what your goal is for next year? $1.5 million plus maybe 5% or 3% growth on top of that. So to me, that's moving the goalposts, especially when we're trying to grow apple trees, because now you're incentivized to get the quick hits instead of growing your farm and your orchard. So the idea here is that when you first come in, if you're doing $1 million and $10,000 a month in gross profit, or something like that, that becomes your number that you have to hit. We're going to pay you your base salary, so you just continue to sell your $10,000, and any growth over that, you're going to share a percentage of that profitability over and above that. And that's your same number 8 years, 10 years down the road. So if you grew that $10,000 a month to $100,000 a month, now you're going to pick up an extra $20,000 or $30,000 a month worth of commissions. That becomes now pretty sizable along the way. So you're building your business within a business. We're not moving those goalposts on you, which is really, really important. Because now it incentivizes people. So two things. One, it really incentivizes people, and it lets them to really earn some wealth. Our top salesperson this year will probably do about $450. And
SDSU alum?
SDSU alum, of course, marketing, a gal who knew nothing about fuses. And so, by the way, even as an engineer, I knew nothing about fuses. I knew nothing about circuit breakers. I knew nothing about switches. I knew a lot about ICs, and I knew a lot about op amps, and I knew a lot about other stuff that's out there that they teach you in engineering school, but resistors and capacitors and all kinds of other stuff. But they don't teach you anything of like wire, and they don't teach you any of the low tech stuff that's out there. So I had all that stuff I had to learn myself. So we have before I get into the training, but so the idea here is to stay on one subject at a time. So we incentivize them. So they're building their business within our business. So what happens if you are successful, and that gal is, like I said, but the sky's the limit for her. She's now quoting some multi-million-dollar projects. I have no doubt in my mind, another 5 or 6 years, she'll be making $1 million a year, which is great. I think it's a great story to tell. And by the way, now she has golden handcuffs.
Yeah.
You think she's going to go try to, you think someone else is going to steal her away to pay her $1 million?
Yeah.
Not a chance. So she's a great salesperson, and she is going to continue to grow in that territory. So once we have someone who's relatively successful and sees the opportunities that are in front of them, they're going to continue to grow. Well, just like it was their own business and such. So it's a really good opportunity for that. So the base salary, there's an individual commission. We also want to promote team play. So we also take a significant amount, well, a small amount of the profitability as well, and we then divvy that up to the entire sales team. And so if one person has a really good month and maybe another one doesn't have an average month and one's down, they all share together in a little bit of that pool and putting that all together. So it's so even if you're brand new and you haven't really built your thing, you can still support the success of the other people around you and kind of grow that and make a couple $100 a month in additional commissions on top of that. And so base salary, the different kinds of commissions, and then the although we have plenty of benefits and car allowances and all that kind of stuff, but then the other thing that we alluded to was this ESOP. And so the idea here is I'm going to retire. And I'm not interested in selling. I've built this great culture and this great company, and everyone loves working there. We don't lose people generally, long-term people. And so and I want to keep that culture going and such, and it's really great. So I can sell it to a PE company, and they'd pay me, I don't know, 6 times earnings, 5 times earnings of or I can choose to sell it to the employees and create this trust fund. And so instead of, the way it works is, we don't have a typical 401k. We have a 401k, but it's not typical where you put in 3%, we'll put in 3% match, And so you make 100% of the money. So what we do is we put in 3%, but into a trust fund, and for our entire company. So if we had let's just say a payroll of $2 million. So I'm going to put, over the course of the year, I'm going to put $60,000 in this trust fund, and they're going to use that $60,000 to buy some of my shares. So now the trust fund has shares of stock, and so as the trust fund becomes a shareholder, they also get a share of the profits. And so not only am I putting in the $60,000 each year into this trust fund, but now if we're making $1 million or $2 million, they get 3 or 4, 10% of the profits, 30% of the profit, and it starts to snowball. The more the more shares they have, the more shares of the profit they get, and the more shares they can buy from me quicker and quicker. So it was a 10-year program, and so the trust fund will basically have 100% of my shares. I'm going to be able to retire. I got about 8 more years to go, and such. So, and then the trust fund represents all the employees that are there.
Mm-hmm.
So the nice thing about it is that even though indirectly you will own shares of the trust, not necessarily shares of the company.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a trustee who runs the whole trust and all that kind of stuff. And so it won't be me, but it's a professional trustee who does a lot of that kind of stuff. And if you were to leave the company for any reason, then if you use it as a retirement type of a thing, I've heard about ESOPs, people that are just line workers walking away $3, $4, $5 million. But the idea is I would like to make everyone who left the company at retirement more than a multimillionaire. Mm-hmm. And that's my goal, is to be able to create a lot of riches for all the people who helped us, become successful.
So when you're out there recruiting, and you like to recruit from SDSU
all the time,
you have several of our former students working for you in both in sales and in other positions. Yeah. One cool thing is I know that we had a student from Spain who is working remotely from Spain. She comes to visit, of course.
She'll be here next week.
She'll be here next week, but she can do her job from Spain, and you made that happen. So that was really cool that you were able to make an arrangement like that. But as you're recruiting students from SDSU, let's keep it to the sales and sales management role. What are you looking for in successful candidates? What makes them successful? And what do you think that you look for in particular that's unique to TCG?
All right, let's start out. It's a great question. So what we're looking for, let me talk about what we're not looking for.
Okay.
So we're not looking for technical people.
Mm-hmm.
You do not need to have any kind of technical expertise in this. We're not looking for necessarily people with a lot of sales experience. Because I'm going to retrain you anyway. In fact, I'd almost prefer if you didn't have any sales experience, because I'm going to start you from ground zero. It's always nice to take Professor Clark and Osinski's marketing. Was it 374? I think it is.
I'm not sure on the number.
But, yeah, the 370, but it's a marketing 370 class. That's a sales. It's relationship selling and things like that. And it's great. And there's also a 400 level class for sales marketing. So what I'm not looking for is seasoned professional people who understand the fuse and circuit breaker and switch markets. They don't exist. If they did, they're really expensive, and they really have a lot of bad habits. And so it's not what I'm looking for. So what I am looking for, though, is somebody who is inquisitive, curious. I like someone who's a problem solver. I find the best people, they love doing Sudokus, and they love being able to do word games and mind games and crossword puzzles and try to figure things out, jigsaw puzzles and stuff. They love figuring it out. That's always a great sign. And they're creative. If I were to ask them to see a random person walking down the mall over here on campus, like, tell me a story about that person, and they can be creative and create this creative. They do creative writing. They don't have to be artists. I'm not looking for the next Rembrandt, but they have to be constantly thinking about things and how to create a better mousetrap. Yeah, somewhat really inquisitive. They have to be, and they have to be personable. They have to like people. They can't necessarily be introverted, although you can't tell, but I'm incredibly introverted.
I say that I am as well, because I get nervous before every single conversation. You just kind of train yourself out of that, right?
You just train yourself out of that. But if you ask me what I do with my free time, I go in a corner and read, or I'm doing puzzles. I'm doing a crossword puzzle or something like that. I put my earbuds in. I tune everyone out.
I could go up in the hills and sit under a tree, and that could be a day for me.
No, I'm the same way. So and so you don't have to be an extrovert. In fact, sometimes extroverts just like to hear themselves talk. You have to be a good listener. And you have to be a really good listener. You have to be able to be go out there and ask good questions. And because you're absolutely curious about, you have to be curious about people. You know, think of it's 1,000 first dates. And you're going, if you go in there and what another friend of mine says, he goes like, if you just show up at a customer and what you call show up and throw up, and you go like, hey, I'm right here. Here's my card. See you later. I'm out of here. And he was like, what did that person learn about them at all? They gave their speech. They ran out, and like, once again, think about a car lot. The first thing they do is they come over and they introduce themselves and tell me what you're looking for, and why are you here? And my wife thinks I'm the craziest guy in the world, but one of the best salespeople you ever find are timeshare salespeople. So I love going to timeshare presentations. I've never bought one. I love going to timeshare presentations because I'm there taking all kinds of notes as to not about the timeshare. I couldn't care less about the timeshare. Okay, let's see here. They introduced themselves. Now they're trying to create a connection with me, and now they're trying to tell me about the company and why it's such. And you know, I'm taking all the great. You know, I'm taking notes of all their sales techniques. Of all their stuff. At the end, I say, "Oh no, I get 2 million points a year on American Express. I don't need to do this."
Now that piece of advice doesn't just apply to sales. Anything that you're going out to do, just be observant and watch how other successful people do things, and you know it's a really good way to learn. So good tip.
Thanks, but I do. I come back on vacation, and my wife will say, "Where were you?" I'm like, "Oh, I was at this timeshare presentation for fill in the blank." And it's like, "Oh, by the way, we got a free dinner tonight somewhere." And she thinks things like, "You're an idiot."
Oh, I know she doesn't really believe that, but that's funny.
She goes, "We're on vacation. Why would you ever think about doing that?" And I'm like, "Oh no, that's just what I love doing." So that's what I like to see in individuals and try to work with. More importantly, someone who's industrious and wants to work. It's sales and work. It's called work for a reason. But I will say this though, if you've made it through San Diego State, it's a pretty rigorous program and such. You're willing to put the same kind of effort you did as a student. I found it was way more harder to be a student than it was to be a professional. Someone's paying me to do this. This is pretty awesome. So I have a lot of incentive, whereas I'm paying the school in the case to actually show up there and be abused.
This is a good point.
So but you do it and you get through it, and you have, something to celebrate. It takes a lot of effort to get through school.
Speaking of school, let's shift gears and talk about our students now. What can they do to help prepare themselves for a successful career in sales management or sales in general, including, maybe certain types of resources they need? Do they need to learn certain tools like Salesforce as a CRM? What do they need to be doing right now?
I think it's hard to say as a student. It's hard to know, it's kind of like every place, every company will have some people might use Salesforce, some people might use QData. There's a bunch of different, there's Microsoft Dynamics, there's a bunch of other things.
For you, does it matter if they even have it, or can you train that in a couple of weeks?
That's what and it won't be a couple of weeks, but it really won't matter. Okay. But you should be able to say Microsoft Dynamics or Salesforce and understand what they're talking about. Not even that, you have to say, what's a CRM? And if you understand what a CRM is and such. And more importantly, if you really want to become a professional salesperson, the one of the best, or professional anyway, So I have a couple of books that I still read today. I have them on book on audio. I've listened to one book 40 times and I still listen to it today. It's about a 100-page book called The War of Art, Steve Pressfield. And it's really this whole idea about going from being an amateur to a professional. And the idea is you're not in sales to dip your toe in the water or anything. Sales is hard work and sales management is hard work because now you have to know so well that you have to be able to coach somebody else to do this. You know, they don't take rookies and say, oh, you're the coach of the team, because they haven't seen it and done all that stuff. But as you progress in your career and you become a student of the game and student of sales, and you learn about the different CRMs that are out there on your own, because you're going to learn one system, but you're going to go out there and learn some other things. And you're going to bring some of that knowledge to your management today and say, hey, look, I've also had some experience in Salesforce, or I have some experience in this closing, or there's this great seminar I want to take on closing techniques or opening techniques. And I've read this book. So I'm 60 years old. I've been in this business now. Well, I graduated, let's just say 25. So what is that, 35 years now? I've been a professional salesperson. I still read one book a month. I got a fairly successful company. I listen to another book. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm listening to sales content. Why? There's a whole lot more. I'm a craftsman. I know how to use my tools in my toolbox, but there's always that one tool I can add to my toolbox to let me know. It's this never-ending quest to learn a little bit more. So here's an interesting thing, and someone brought this to my attention several years ago. You're at Del Mar, right? And so, or the horses are running in Del Mar this summer, and they have a race that's worth $100,000. How much do you think the winner of that horse race gets?
Probably only a fraction of that.
Well, they only get a fraction of it, but they get 55%.
Okay, well, that's not a bad size fraction.
No, not a bad size fraction. They get $55,000. What do you think the second place horse gets?
A lot less,
A lot less, 25%.
25%.
So do you think less than half? So do you think that as the horse is finishing the finish line, that the other horse is halfway through the race?
No.
Sometimes it's only that much. It's that much between the difference between getting 55,000 and 25,000. That much right there. How much think about getting the gold medal and being not a medal?
Yeah.
In some of the cases, it could be, hundreds of a second, hundreds of points if you're doing it by points or whatever it is. So the idea here is, what is going to take you over there? What's going to make you the winner, or the guy who finishes in second? By the way, in sales, the guy who finishes in second usually doesn't get anything. They don't even get a consolation prize. They say, maybe next time. Come and see me in 3 years when that contract is up, and we'll see whether or not you can qualify for that next contract. So the idea is, what is going to take you over the top to be able to get to that little bit that you need? So you're the one winning by a nose and not the competition. And so it's that continuous learning. It's that learning a little bit more about your product, learning about the competitors' products, learning about the customer and what they do, learning about the industry, learning about applications, learning about, and it sounds so overwhelming. It is overwhelming and we call it, when we first do we'll talk about training in just a second here, but when we talk, I didn't coin this, but my sales manager coined this. He was like, it's like taking a drink of water from a fire hose. Trying to put your face down in front of a fire hose. And that's kind of what it feels like when you're going through some of this training. But if you were to get a small, a regular faucet and get a little bit all the time whenever you're thirsty, but you continue to do that. And it's just like, you don't wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to have a big breakfast. I'm not going to eat again tomorrow. It's nourishing yourself along the way. It's constantly adding new tools to the toolbox, using the tools in an inventive way, using it to, and then showing your work. And what are you doing, and actually doing it. Don't talk about just doing it. Oh, I can do this at this customer. I can do that at this customer. I can recite all your catalog, forward, backwards, and sideways. That's great, but you're afraid to go talk to a customer about it. So be able to be out there and approach Every day we're trying to learn something new, and you have to be very, very, very disciplined about it. It's a very, very disciplined approach. And so not everyone could do that. No matter, by the way, it's not even sales. It's in any career path that you have. You need to be disciplined and continue to learn, whether or not it's in technology, whether or not it's in life sciences, or whether or not it's in marketing, or whatever it happens to be. You can continue to learn. In fact, I carry it on my wrist. I have a little mnemonic here. So I've been wearing it now for about 10 years, but it basically says 2 words. And this is kind of what I live my life by, is discipline and gratitude. And being able to be grateful for everything that's been coming my way and such. And at the same time, having the discipline to continue on every single day, wake up early, do what I need to do, listen to my podcasts, make the calls that I need to make. If I don't make all the things and do all the things I want to do, that are on my list for tomorrow, and then I will start my list, where I ended off the day before, and continue to not try. Oh, here's another thing. Here's another little tidbit that I wish I learned a lot earlier, and that is trying to do everything yourself. So we're talking about sales management again. Like I told you before, sales managers are not there to grow sales. They're there to grow salespeople. How many salespeople do I know who go off with a salesperson, go in there, and then 5 minutes into the call, they take over the call to show everyone that they can actually close this sale? What did the salesperson learn? Nothing. They watch somebody else do it. It's like, like I said, like a manager of a baseball team going out there showing that they can throw the pitch. It was like, now you do it. Mm-hmm. It's like, you didn't teach me anything here. You just did it. The idea is watching somebody fail. Don't be afraid to fail. We want someone to fail and learn from their mistakes and to go forward. I like to tell people that I've never ever fired someone for making a bad mistake or a bad decision. I have fired people for not willing to make mistakes or not willing to make a decision. I don't want people like that on my staff. I want people to go out there and work to grow themselves. You're not going to get any better. It's like if I'm only going to pick up, this much weight at the gym, I'm not helping myself doing anything. I need to put some heavy weight on there and do it, so I can't do it anymore. And the next day, hopefully I'll get a little stronger and be able to do that. I'm pushing myself to the point where I'm actually getting better at this. And the idea here is not only myself, but everyone who works with me and such. I want them to be better. I want them to continue to grow. And that's why we have this culture. We have, for instance, on Fridays, we have book club. So we read a book together, all 21 of us today. We all read a book, the same book, maybe 30, 40 pages. And on Friday morning at 7:30, we'd sit around and we discuss it. It could be on HR, it could be on sales, it could be marketing, it could be something just fun. We read one time Green Eggs and Ham. Again, by the way, it's a great sales book. Yeah. It's about perseverance. It's about introductions. It's about
so go out and get green eggs.
Go out and get green eggs and ham, and use this as a benchmark. And we've read about, when we started this, we've now read about 21 books. And it takes us, 6, 7, 8 weeks to do this. But we all now speaking a common language, we're all getting better. And, we created rewards. No one was really working that much on a Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, we work, our office would open be, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. So by 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, people are just shuffling papers or doing anything. It's like, all right, why don't you guys read the book on your own time? We'll come in a half hour early on Fridays and we'll shut the office down at 3 o'clock. So you get something, I get something, you guys get some, you get some time off, but you guys also get to, learn a few new things and come and discuss and such. And so I facilitate this, but no one can hide in corners. Zoom is one of these great things where you can't hide in the corner and put your head down and pretend like you're not there. So you're going to get called on, and if you come ready, and most people are ready, and we have had some great discussions on some things about like pricing strategies and hiring strategies and just the kind of people we want to be on our team. And so this is why we win awards for culture, and this is why We've been finalists for the best places to work and such. It's because it really is a great team, and it's really is it's a wonderful place to be, and people will crawl over broken glass to make our point or make it successful.
Yeah, I think, again, when we talk about cultural models that you've developed at TCG, it definitely defies those stereotypes that people have, where you're actually encouraging teamwork instead of pitting salespeople against each other. That you're giving them both security of a salary, but also the ability to earn almost unlimited. The more you can produce, the more you can earn. And so a lot of great things about working at TCG. I hope that if you're interested in sales, give Jim a call and find out a little more about his
Can I give you
opportunities.
one more second?
Go ahead. Yes.
Okay, so because I alluded to it, so I want to finish off this thought here. So training.
Yes.
So so one of the things you're also going to get with us is that you might not get. So I alluded to the first two companies where I got zero training about this, and that frustrated me as someone who wanted to learn more about it, and they didn't have really anything for me. So I went to the library and checked out books and continued to tap into other people. So knowing that, we created a year-long training program. And so instead of training from that fire hose, yes, it will be like training from the fire hose to start with. But what we'll end up doing is we spend a month starting in June. There'll be a cohort of about 6 people in that class, hopefully. And we'll do costume training for about a month. And then we will start going out on the road and help you to make some appointments. And we'll have our sales manager, myself, and other people go out with you to go visit with your customers for the very first time. And you'll watch us do it. And then you're going to start making appointments, and then the new people, our new RSMs will then start making their own appointments, and we'll go along with them and just watch and observe and then give some tips and stuff like that. And this will be the case for about a year. And they'll come back for a week and go back out again to go visit their customers. They'll be under our roof, every other week, and about 20 weeks out of the year, you'll go out and visit customers, and about 32 weeks, you'll be under our roof, and continuous training along the way. And the instructors for this class are other RSMs. It's not only myself and the sales manager, but it's all the other RSMs who want you to succeed. So that's also part of the whole thing about teamwork. It's not about competition with them. It's about them helping you to succeed just as much, because you're part of their team now, and they're the team leaders. And one day you will be that person we're going to call upon to be able to train other people. And this is training you will be able to take with you, no matter if you stay with us or you don't stay with us. This will be training you'll be able to go take forever and go off and do. So hopefully you'll stay with us and become very lucrative to you. And so anyway, so I wanted to kind of end on some of the training that we do.
Yeah,
and it's really important to us to make sure that you have that subject matter knowledge, and you know about sales, and you know how to make this all work.
So whether you end up working with Jim and TCG or not, there are sales coaches out there where the company will invest in you. They're not just throwing you off the deep end and saying sink or swim. So Jim is definitely one of those that says, I'm willing to invest in you. And his gambit with that is that you're going to become invested in the company and what they're doing in return. And I think it works beautifully when it's applied the way that you've applied it.
So someone asked me this, and I stole this again somewhere along the way, but I'll just end it here. But we might manufacture fuses and circuit breakers and switches, but what we really make is a difference.
Yeah, I like that. So what he really makes is a difference. So with that said, let's open it up to some Q&A. I want to give you an opportunity to ask your questions for those that are here. I know that we had a few that had to leave, but we still have some of you that are with us. We got Yogesh here live, and we got Nicole, Marissa, and William still on with us. So if you'd like to ask a question, or actually we got a few. Yeah, okay. So we got 4 here. If you'd like to ask a question, just unmute yourself and shoot. Yogesh, do you have one?
Yeah. So based on my experience before, how do you differentiate marketing and sales?
That's a great question. So, and it's the $1 million question. So here's what I like to say for this. So most people think marketing is really just advertising. And that's or public relations or creating a website. That's marketing. And in fact, that's the very last step of marketing. Just to communicate. What you're looking for is marketing starts with first creating the product and finding out and looking at the market. And what need are you filling? What's out there that what is the need out there in the marketplace that you're trying to do? And how are you trying to segment that to your product versus somebody else's product that's already out there? Creating that awareness of what people want, creating the right price point for that, doing the study on that. So much of the marketing is data driven and not necessarily the communication of the data afterwards or communication of a message, even to create the message to begin with. So the way I kind of like to sum this up is marketing is getting the customer to get to the car lot, and sales is making sure that they drive off with the car. When you go to buy a BMW or go to buy a car, you go to a BMW lot because you already know what BMW stands for. They already, what kind of quality, what kind of resale value, what kind of driving experience that you're expecting to have when you buy a BMW. What kind of person drives a BMW? What kind of impression does someone make? By the time you even walk onto a BMW car lot, once you're there, you want to talk to a salesperson, and they want to get you into the right model. They want to differentiate between a BMW and a Mercedes and an Audi to make sure that and they will talk about the financing and talk about the options and talk about those other things to make sure you drive away introduce you to the long-term support team of the people who are going to fix it. They're going to talk about the resale value again in specifics. You walk into a salesperson, they have no idea what you're talking about. If they're not there to sell you on those things, then they're not doing their job of sales. In the same way, marketing, if you can't get anyone to come to your car lot, then it doesn't really matter. And that's not just by saying putting out glitzy ads to say, come to this lot because we have BMWs. That's not, you need a message there that resonates with that type of customer. In the same way, salespeople don't go door to door. Hey, I see you have a car in the driveway. Would you like to buy a BMW? I hear about prospecting all the time and about cold calling. I think any company that has cold calling should be shot. That's what a marketing department is supposed to do, is how lead generation for the salespeople to actually to be able to go and sell a product to them or a service to them. But the idea here is of just being, and the same way you just don't make a website and say, well, people just come. You better have a reason why people should come to see you. What need are you going to follow? Just having a website as an information thing doesn't really market anything. You're not targeting that message to anybody who might have that need in the marketplace. If I have I even have a great product. If there's no perceived need for it, then there's no reason why. I can have a penicillin. Penicillin, cures a lot of diseases. But if I'm not sick, I don't care anything about penicillin. I don't want to buy it. I have no need for it whatsoever. But if I'm sick, I'm willing to pay almost anything for it. At that kind of rate. So it's not about it's about having this perceived need and such. And so they're two different things completely. The other thing too is that in marketing, it's a people thing. You're really there to find them, keep them, and grow them. And that's all part of marketing, by having the right messaging. And sales is about a process, about getting them to the right options and the right financing and the right the right product for them, and making sure and finding a way to connect where they're at today and where they want to be, and make that bridge to connect those two things. So sales is like accounting. It's a process. Manufacturing, it's a process. Marketing is about people. It's like HR. HR is not about sales. You know, I'm not selling people into coming to there. I'm marketing. I'm telling them about my business. I'm trying to find the right people to come to knocking on our and to get the resumes from the right people to join our team. Not everyone's right for this position, and I understand that. But I'm putting the message out there and trying to educate the marketplace what we're all about. And if they're interested, they can come to us.
Thanks for that explanation. We still have Nicole on. Nicole, do you have a question that you'd like to ask for Jim? No pressure, but if you do, I want to give you that opportunity. Okay. Any more questions that you have, Yogesh?
Yeah, I'm actually happy and thankful, Greg, for having this session kind of thing. It's like I started my career from sales. I was working for my father after my engineering. I had a gap of 5 months. My offer letter stated that my next job will start in 5 months. So my father told me, can you come and help me out in a small business? So I started as a sales, but I started loving that process of talking to people, convincing them. That was like kind of growing my self-confidence that I can talk to people. And when I have the knowledge of a product, I'm able to convince them. Then I decided like I'll do an MBA so that I can study and I can grow my business. But in that process, like I was learning so much. I was learning like it was all about psychology of how the customer comes, how you have to deal as the customer comes and goes. So there were so many things that I couldn't just understand so easily. And I could see my father taking decisions quickly. And I used to feel bad that why can't I take such decisions even when I have an MBA degree with me? And why can't I just create that environment what he could create when he had nothing in his hand? So I was like, there are so many things that come up. I came to US because I wanted to learn how a data can help to decide, create a framework in all departments, not only sales, but in all departments, how can data help? And by listening to you, like last time when Bundy was there.
Yeah, Ross.
Ross Bundy. Like when I directly talk to entrepreneurs, I feel that connect like, yes, this is the one where I can learn what I came to learn to the US. I don't want to work for big giants because I don't feel that connect. The purpose of me studying here was not to work for them, but to learn here from those people who created that great environment. Like you said, the company culture that you created, the atmosphere that you have. I've seen my father almost on the same lines. He has people working for him for almost 30-35 years. And when I started my small venture, I always wanted to create. But again, like I failed. And when it was time where I had to analyze why I failed, I mean, I was looking out for mentors and everything. But sales was the first topic of my father told me, unless your sales don't reach a certain figure, you won't be able to do anything in your businesses.
Correct.
So start with sales, and then I had to pursue him like I want to study more, I want to learn more, and I want to go outside. He then allowed me, and I'm really thankful that I met you today. I'm thankful, Greg. Really, having talking to such entrepreneurs directly, it actually means a more learning process than actually attending those lectures. Those lectures are meant for the tools, but it is not the soft skills, or it is not that great learning what this session is.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Yogesh. Means a lot. I'm going to go ahead and stop the session, but if you'd like to stick around for a few minutes and have a chat with Jim, I'm sure as long as you've got time that he'd like to address those questions. So thank you everybody for joining us today. We're going to get this video up online So if you weren't able to make it, or you have friends who weren't able to make it, it'll be up there and I'll be sharing it shortly. Oops, let me make sure I stop the recording first here.